when you cross an onion and a donkey? Well, most of the time you get an onion with really long ears. But every once in a while, you get an ass that'll bring tears to your eyes. And if you see one, call me on the hotline. Now, folks, stop me if you've heard this one. No, I'm just kidding. Don't stop me. An airliner went through some really violent turbulence, rough enough that the flight attendants strapped themselves in, and many of the passengers were airsick. When they finally got through it and the air calmed, the captain's voice came over the intercom. Well, folks, that was quite some ride, wasn't it? But we came through it with flying colors, and I'm glad to report it looks like the remainder of our trip will be smooth sailing. On behalf of myself and the flight crew, I'd like to thank you very much for your cooperation and extend our best wishes for a pleasant stay in Boston. Then, wrongly believing he had switched off his microphone, he said to his co-pilot, "What a friggin' ride. Man, I could use a strong cup of coffee and a blowjob right about now." As a stricken stewardess dashed up the aisle to inform him his microphone was still on, a sweet little old lady called out to her, "Honey, don't forget the coffee." Once when I was in college, I ate a hash brownie, but I didn't swallow. You know my definition of safe sex? Well, it's any time Hillary is out of the White House. One of my top aides, at least one of the ones who's still with me, Andrew Fairthorne, told me that joke. It's not bad, huh? Thanks, Andy. You know that FBI file we got on Al Lowe? Honest mistake, I swear. And, you know, you can trust me. The Pope dies. And, well, naturally, being the Pope, he goes to heaven. It'd be kind of funny if he didn't go to heaven, huh? It'd be a whole nother joke. Now, he's met in heaven by St. Peter at the pearly gates, and after a whirlwind tour of heaven, is told that he can enjoy any of the myriad recreations available. He decides that he's going to read all the ancient original texts of the Holy Scriptures. After an eon or so to learn the languages, he sits down in heaven's library to pore over every version of the Bible. Suddenly there's a scream in the library. The angels come running only to find the Pope huddled in a chair in a corner crying to himself, muttering, "R! They left out the R." God himself takes him aside, offers him comfort, and asks him about the problem. The Pope sobs again. It's the letter R. The word was celebrate. Think about it. Another one of the ones you'll laugh about on the way home. The convent is being remodeled, and 2 nuns are assigned the task of painting the library. Mother Superior cautions them not to get even a drop of paint on their habits. After discussing this for a while, the 2 nuns decide to lock the door of the room, strip off their habits, and paint in the nude. Can you imagine such a thing? In the middle of the project, there comes a knock at the door. "Who is it?" called one of the nuns. "Blind man," replies a voice from the other side of the door. The 2 nuns look at each other and shrug, and deciding that no harm can come from letting a blind man into the room, they open the door. "Nice tits," says the man. "Where do you want me to put these blinds?" Rush Limbaugh is a big fat idiot. Oh, I don't want to talk about the book. I just love that title. Now, don't you just love those Republicans? Bob Woodward writes bad stuff about Nixon, and he's a liar. Bob Woodward writes bad stuff about Reagan, and he's a liar. Bob Woodward writes bad stuff about me, and he's a thoroughly researched journalist. Oh, boy, I sure got the short end of that PR stick. So what if Hillary consults with the dead? What about Nancy? I say, what about Nancy? The other night, I dreamt I was the Ayatollah Khomeini. Well, then I woke up and realized that Socks was sleeping on my face. Although I had developed a strange affinity for Muammar Gaddafi. Now, ladies and gentlemen, is it just me, or does Jimmy Carville sound like a hillbilly in a blender? Now, Vice President Al Gore had been working lots of late nights with me. Tipper, his lovely wife, decided to give him something to come home for. She bought a pair of crotchless panties. You know what I'm talking about. And when Al came walking in, there she was, sprawled across the sofa with her new purchase clearly displayed. "Don't you want a little of this, honey?" she purred. Al took one look and said, "Not after what it did to those panties." A guy dies, unfortunate but true, and he finds himself in hell. He's totally depressed. Sure, I may have led a wild life, he thinks, but I can't believe it was this bad. I didn't know it would come to this. The admissions counselor down there in hell notices his heavy heart. "What's the matter, young man? You seem kind of depressed." "Well, what do you think?" said the young man. "I'm in hell, aren't I?" The counselor replies, "Well, yeah, but it's not so bad. We have a lot of fun down here. Do you drink?" "Well, sure I like to drink." "Well, then you are going to love Mondays. On Mondays, we drink up a storm. Nothing but the finest whiskey, rum, tequila, beer, anything you want and as much as you want. And no hangover, 'cause you're already dead. Yeah, old boy, you're going to love Mondays." "Do you smoke?" "Well, sure, I like to smoke." "Well, then you're going to love Tuesdays. On Tuesdays, we smoke up a storm. Nothing but the finest cigars, the best cigarettes, and no worries about cancer, 'cause you're already dead." "Oh, yeah, you're going to love Tuesdays." "Now tell me, do you do drugs?" "Well, I might have done a few in college." "Well, then you are going to love Wednesdays. On Wednesdays, we do drugs all over the place. You can have all you want of any drug you have ever heard of, and no worries about ODing or addiction, 'cause you're already dead. Oh, I know you're going to love Wednesdays. Hey, do you gamble?" "Well, sure, I like to gamble." "Well, then you're going to love Thursdays. On Thursdays, we gamble up a storm. All day, all night, blackjack, craps, poker, slots, horse racing, you name it. And you never have to pay your bookie, 'cause you got it, you're already dead. Yeah, oh, I just know you're going to love Thursdays. Now, let me ask you this. Are you gay?" No." "Uh-oh. Well, then, you are going to hate Fridays." One of my secretaries stopped in at a bar in Georgetown for a drink. As she waited at the bar, she was startled to hear a bowl of pretzels say, "Lady, you are beautiful." She was questioning her own sanity when the bowl of peanuts said, "Lady, you're not just beautiful, you are gorgeous." As the bartender returned with her drink, she told him, "Your bowl of pretzels said I'm beautiful, and your peanuts said I'm gorgeous." And the bartender replied, "But of course, ma'am, they're complimentary." Now, I knew this guy, who shall remain nameless, back in Little Rock, who called his wife one evening and said, Honey, I've been invited to spend a week fishing with some of my best customers, but they're leaving right away. Could you pack my clothes, my fishing gear, and, oh, don't forget my blue silk pajamas. I'll be home in a few minutes to pick 'em up." An hour later, he flew into the house, grabbed his stuff, and raced off. A week later, he returned. His wife asked him, "Did you have a good week, dear?" "Oh, yes, honey, it was great." "But you didn't pack my blue silk pajamas." His wife smiled and said, "Oh, yes, I did. They're in your tackle box." It's okay, folks. I know you're laughing inside. When I was in grade school, my teacher played a game. She said, "I'm holding something behind my back that's long and hard and has a pink tip." I quickly raised my hand. "Is it a pencil, teacher?" "No, little Billy," she said, "but I like the way you're thinking." So I put my hand down my pants and said, "Teacher, I'm holding something in my pocket that's round and hard and has a head on it." She cried, "All right, that's it. You're going straight to the principal's office, Billy." "Wow," I said, "it's only a quarter, but I like the way you're thinking." When I was young, I wanted to become a priest until I found out what nun meant. Why do men have belly buttons? So co-eds have a place to park their gum on the way down. What did the doctor say to the man who was nervous about being circumcised? "Well, it won't be long now." The room service waiter delivering breakfast was greeted by a beautiful young woman in a see-through nightie. As soon as he closed the door, she pounced on him, ripped off his clothes, and screwed his brains out. Afterwards, when they were dressed, she said, "Oh, here, I almost forgot," and she handed him $1. "What's this for?" he asks. "Oh, this morning when I asked my husband what should I tip the waiter, he said, 'Screw him, give him $1.' When we were both in college, Al Gore and I went to Fort Lauderdale for spring break. But when I finally found Al, he was very, very sad. "Man, I'm just not getting any. What am I doing wrong?" So I told him, "Put a potato in your pants. It gets them every time." The next day I saw him again. "Having any luck, Al?" "No," he says. "In fact, I'm doing even worse." So I suggested, "Al, try putting the potato in the front." The young lady was obviously displeased with her new lover's performance. "You must be the world's worst lay," she scolded. "I think not," he replied. "That would be too great a coincidence." You see, she was also the worst that he ever, and okay. Good night, drive safely. A young lady answered a personal ad in the paper and arranged a date with a nice-sounding man. At the appointed hour, the doorbell rang, but when she opened the door, she got a big surprise. The nice-looking fellow standing there had no arms or legs. "Hi, I'm the guy from the ad in the paper." Yes, but," she protested. "Oh, you've probably noticed my physical challenges. But look at it this way. Since I have no arms, I can't hit you. Since I have no legs, I can't run around on you." She considered all this. "Well, perhaps, and you are quite attractive. But can you satisfy my needs?" she said. "Well, I reached the doorbell, didn't I?" An attractive young mother, oh, they're the best kind, was having the birds and bees lecture with her little girl. To make a baby, the daddy puts his sperm in the mommy's tummy. "Well, I don't understand," the little girl said. "If the daddy puts his sperm in the mommy's tummy, does that mean that the mommy has to swallow the daddy's sperm? Well, said the mommy, only if the mommy wants jewelry. What's the difference between beer nuts and deer nuts? Well, beer nuts are $1 a bag, but deer nuts are under $1. Now, folks, I thought I would throw in at least one true story here today. This one really did happen, my hand to God. Once a penguin, believe it or not, was driving his Cadillac through Arkansas. I saw him go by. Cruising through this small town, his car began to knock and ping. So the penguin pulled his Cadillac into the local garage. The mechanic said, "It's going to be a couple hours before I can check it out." The penguin replied, "Well, I'll head across the street and check out that grocery store." He immediately heads into the frozen food section, where he spends the next 2 hours munching on fish sticks and ice cream bars. After a couple hours, the penguin heads back to the garage. The mechanic takes one look at him and says, "Well, looks like you blew a seal." To which the penguin blushed and replied, "Oh no, that's just vanilla ice cream." Why don't cannibals eat clowns? Because they taste funny. You know how a French woman holds her liquor? By the ears. What's the difference between Hillary with PMS and a pit bull? High heels and lipstick. A lot of lipstick. Now this one is Al Gore's favorite. A male and female whale are swimming off the coast of Japan when they pass under the very whaling vessel that killed the male's father 5 years before. Excited at the chance to exact revenge for his father's death, the male says, "Let's swim right underneath the ship and expel air through our blowholes until we capsize that boat. That ought to make them think twice about killing innocent whales." The female whale agreed, and together they managed to sink the whaler. But their celebration was short-lived when they noticed that most of the sailors were swimming to shore. "Hey, let's gobble 'em up," cries the male. "No way," says the female. "I agreed to the blow job, but there's no way I'm swallowing semen." I had a buddy back in Arkansas who divorced his new wife when he found out she was a virgin. I asked him, "Why did you do that, Virgil?" And he replied, "Well, hell, if she ain't good enough for her family, she sure ain't good enough for me." The florist delivered a dozen roses to Kate's office. "Damn," she said to her friend. "Now I'll have to spend the entire weekend with my legs up in the air." Her friend replied, "What's the matter, honey? Ain't you got a vase?" I have such a good memory that I can remember events that occurred before I was born. In fact, I distinctly remember going to the drive-in with my father and returning home with my mother. Did you hear they hired a doorman down at the sperm bank? His job is to tell each guy, "Thanks for coming." Do you know the difference between light and hard? Personally, I can sleep with a light on. Here's a hypothetical for you. If you come across Newt Gingrich drowning in the middle of a raging river, and you had a choice between rescuing him or getting a Pulitzer Prize winning photograph, what shutter speed would you use? One night last week, I felt like I needed some inspiration, so I decided to take a long walk. Passing the Washington Monument, I prayed to the spirit of President Washington, the father of our country. George, you were our country's first great leader. Everyone trusted you. How can I gain the people's trust? And I swear I heard the voice of President Washington say to me, never tell a lie. I thought this over as I continued on my walk. Passing the Jefferson Memorial, I prayed to the spirit of Thomas Jefferson. Thomas, you established the basis for our entire legal system. You were a very popular president. How can I improve my popularity? And I swear I heard the voice of President Jefferson say, never raise taxes. I winced a little, but I kept on walking. Passing the Lincoln Memorial, I was getting desperate, so I prayed to the spirit of President Lincoln. Honest Abe, you were a man of great integrity. You abolished slavery and, in so doing, helped free all Americans from an uncivilized institution. Abe, how can I set our people free today? And you know what that dang Lincoln said to me? Go see a play. What does George Bush have in common with Jennifer Flowers? They were both upset when I finished first.